Good morning. Thank you very much to Nicholas Reed and the team for having us here for the first time at Resources Rising Stars. Got the usual disclaimer, and the CODA Minerals, we listed just slightly less than a year ago, 28th of October last year, and what a year it's been. It's been fantastic, and I think this is a really great tribute to a combination of having some of the best exploration ground for copper, arguably in the world, located right on the Stuart Shelf in South Australia, combined with an enormous amount of hard work by a small but very dedicated team. And during this year, we've delivered on many of our listing promises. We really started off focusing on the existing indicated copper cobalt resources, and with the intention to bring Emmy Bluff, the northern part of our tenure, which is a large copper cobalt deposit, up to JORC status. We expect to deliver that next month. In the meantime, we've also acquired a fantastic project in Queensland called Cameron River, which has added copper gold exploration to our portfolio. And arguably most exciting of all, we followed up on the IOCG prospectivity that we've worked on for so long, and the first hole hit 200 meters of alteration with 45 meters of now assayed sulfides, and we've followed up on that as well. It has been a great year, really excited to be here, and as I say, we're very happy with where we've been over the last year, and really more excitingly, what I'll explain today is where we think we're going. Now, it's a very tightly held register, less than 100 million shares on issue. Behind those nominees, you've got fantastic institutional funds, Regal, Sprott, and several others as well below the substantial threshold. We've done an enormous amount of work on this register really to get support, and that's reflected of nearly 65% top 20, and that is growing. It's grown about 3% over the last couple of months, which is fantastic. Really good support from shareholders. The share price has traded consistently within sort of 3 to 4 times the listing price less than a year ago now, and it's traded consistently within that zone over the last few months. Very strong cash balance, 21.8 at the last quarterly. We are spending on IOCG drilling, but it still remains very, very healthy indeed. As I say, just 97 million shares on issue, no debt, no nasties. The board, it's a great board, very experienced, people with experience through the, Paul Hallam at Sandfire, NED at Sandfire, early days at FMG, Robin Marshall, just fresh from delivering the Gold Fields Gold Road Gruyere project, Colin Moorhead, my senior geoscientist, again, PT Medeka, multi-billion-dollar company, on the board of RRS as well. Keith Jones, former chairman of Deloitte. The governance is on point, and he keeps the team focused. Matt Weber is in the audience today, and he will be available to talk deep geology after. He'll be at our booth, and we've just strengthened the team as well with CODA. Fantastic hire. One of the great things about growing is the ability to attract world-class talent. So we're really excited about that. We've got the kind of board and team that knows how to grow companies and has a track record of that. So the tenure, I said this is arguably some of the best copper exploration tenure, one of the best locations in the world, and there is already an enormous amount of copper on this tenure, and we believe much more yet to be discovered. JORC indicated resources at Windabout and MG14, a good start, good foundations. We will have a JORC resource this year at Emmy Bluff. We believe that will be a solid, peer-comparable copper cobalt resource. Frankly, I think our current enterprise value of about $80 million, $80 to $85 million, should be more than supported by those 3 deposits alone. And then you add Emmy Bluff Deeps into the mix and the other exploration targets as well. Now, the IOCG is what generally gets most people excited and is the main focus of sort of these sorts of talks. We hit a fantastic hole in June. It was the product of an enormous amount of work that went into this. Several targets fell by the wayside. It's always terrifying doing your first IOCG hole. These are deep, these are hard work, these are expensive holes to drill. And in Tightline, we've got a fantastic drilling contractor that's been working with us right through this. 2 rigs on site turning 24/7 right now. And the first hole hit good mineralization. It hit a solid chalcopyrite-dominated zone, approximately 45 meters. And that hole, right in the center of this anomaly, you can see, so right in the center of the area where you've got high gravity but low magnetics. And Matt will be very happy to talk after this sort of in detail about our targeting and our geological models. But it's really paid off. It's proven the model that was developed internally with that first hole. And frankly, it's got better from there. We drilled out to the west, slightly thinner chalcopyrite-dominated hole, and then out to the east. The next wedge is 2 loads of Borneite mineralization, now assayed, mineralization over 3.4% copper in the lower lode. Exciting. Looking for thickness, looking for more Borneite, and it's come, which is great. Coming out to EBD2, pyrite, chalcopyrite dominated, and then into EBD3 with, again, another solid intercept of Borneite. Just to talk briefly, sort of the geology, these IOCG deposits generally demonstrate zonation around mineralized or mineralizing structures as you move from a lower tenor of mineralization being sort of the chalcopyrites. You tend to go from pyrite and iron sulfide into chalco, which is a lower tenor of copper mineralization, through into Borneite and chalcocite dominance. And these are much higher grade copper sort of bearing minerals. And so this is really what we're chasing. Now, pretty much all IOCGs follow this model in the region. The geometry, the scale, they vary greatly. No 2 look alike. But again, this Borneite dominance is what you're looking for. Again, another chalco out to the west, and then Borneite coming out to the east in EBD3 wedge 2. Really exciting. Again, that's our best hole to date, 67 meters of mineralization. So we're seeing increasing tenor of mineralization. We're seeing that zonation from chalco through to Borneite. We're seeing increased thicknesses. We've gone through what we're interpreting to be a mineralizing structure. There is much we don't yet know. That is just part of exploration. We've been working on this pretty solidly now for about 3.5 months. In exploration terms, that's a nanosecond. But we're making fantastic progress. The team is working on this, and there's huge opportunity here to expand laterally and to expand to depth. Ultimately, we're looking for a stacked or steep model. We're looking for that source of thickness coming with the mineralization. As this grows laterally, it starts to ask some really interesting questions about just how extensive this is going as well, with mineralization continuing from sort of EBD2 right up to SA4, about 800 meters to the northeast. So that gets us very excited. We're seeing great results to date. Pretty much every hole is giving us really helpful information or improving the really quality of the mineralization. Now, I talked about that stacked or steep model. What we've seen to date are stacked lodes, each one being about 20 to 40 meters thick, depending on where you are. Very much open to the south in particular with the high-grade zones, and right open up to SA4, which is a historical hole and well mineralized. So there's an enormous amount of copper in this system. There is IOCG zonation. There are higher grade Borneite zones now assayed and additional Borneite zones waiting for the assay results. So I say all pointing to great news, pointing to one thing in my opinion, an enormous, huge amount of copper in this system. This mineralization spreads through historical drilling for about 4.5 square kilometers. And what we're really now looking for, as I say, is this sort of higher grade, thicker area, likely to be mineralizing or mineralized structure. There may be more of them. There may be more lodes. This is likely to be laterally much more extensive than we have drilled back to date. And without forgetting the Tapley Hill-hosted mineralization above this at around 400 meters, you can see there in the blue. So again, this is really indicative of a system with a lot of copper in it, and that's very exciting for us. Now, talking about that Tapley mineralization, we have existing resources at Windabout and MG14. Good start. We're really looking for more. We're looking for scale. That scale on the Zambian copper mineralization, which is just about 1,200 meters from the main IOCG area of interest, is Emmy Bluff. And we expect to be delivering a resource this year. We're just waiting for the final assay results to come through before we get deep into the resource modeling process. And Emmy Bluff, again, I believe, is more evidence of significant amounts of copper in this system. It's a copper-cobalt mineralization rather than the iron oxide copper-gold mineralization of the IOCG area. There are aspects of that I think we're yet to explain in terms of a model. But again, a huge amount of copper in the system. We're drilling 24/7, 2 rigs at Emmy Bluff Deeps, the IOCG. We've demobilized rigs from Emmy Bluff as we finalize the resource process, although I will say this is wide open to the east, and also the first resource is likely to only put about 2/3 of that initial exploration target area into resource. We think that's going to be enough for now, and then we'll go in and we'll do additional work to look at the exploration potential and get rigs out as appropriate. One thing I'll say about this mineralization, we've been around it for a long time. I was on the team that acquired this project 4 years ago, so there's a lot of work in the background that I think ordinarily would not have been done at this stage, and that's going to give us a running start with really understanding the scale and the potential of this Zambian-style mineralization. Back to IOCGs. One of the challenges, but the great thing about CODA, challenges of managing this, is the number of opportunities on this tenure and making sure, that we're prioritizing these correctly. Now, Elaine, I am told by our geophysicists, is the bigger, better target of the two between this and Emmy Bluff Deeps. Given the results today we've had at Emmy Bluff Deeps, that gets me very excited, and it's certainly something that we intend to be drilling relatively soon. I'm just working through my approvals internally on that. But again, we've proven that exploration model of looking in the area where you've got high gravity, but just off the magnetic anomalies. There is historical drilling in the area, and we've a very strong geophysically backed target here. Does lightning strike twice? I'd like to think it will at Elizabeth Creek, and we'll be out there drilling this in due course. So it's an ambitious work program. Question I get asked in every meeting, what's the news flow? Well, very simply, Emmy Bluff, resources coming. We're just waiting on the assays. We'll finalize the model, and we believe that will be a good, solid, peer-comparable copper-cobalt resource that will get people excited. As I said, I think that should be supporting the enterprise value we have on its own. Add in the IOCG, potential, world-class potential. It's 15 Ks from Oak Dam West, it's 40 Ks from Carapatina. We have discovered an IOCG system. We have work to do. We are looking for more lateral extent, we're looking for more thickness, but we are already starting to see something coming together given those stacked loads and the increasing thicknesses and tenor of mineralization as we drill. 2 rigs turning on that 24/7. Effectively watch this space for news. The next holes are making good progress. I will note this takes time. Carl mentioned patience. It's not something we're very good at CODA either. We want it to happen now. And it takes about 4 weeks to drill a parent hole and another couple of weeks each for wedge holes. Generally, to test an area, it makes sense to put down a parent hole and 2 wedge holes, so you can see that it does take time. So we appreciate the patience that we have and the understanding from especially our technically driven investors. This is an exciting discovery, and we're working through it. Regional exploration, that's ongoing. Cameron River, I'll talk to briefly in a moment. Fantastic project and something that gets us very excited. So we entered this one in I think it was March this year. It's 80% farming. We're currently at 0%. $2 million to acquire 80% over a couple of years. We're making great progress. We've finalized our rock chip sampling programs. We're just waiting on and compiling assay results at the moment. It's a relatively low risk farming. It is fantastic area. We think this is wildly prospective, and I'm actually really excited about talking to this. It's not getting a lot of airplay with all the ICG exploration, but it really deserves to, so please watch this space. Very briefly, we are in South Australia, one of the most progressive places in the world for renewable energy. We're working with environmentally friendly lixiviants, and we have a fantastic relationship with the traditional owners. So in summary, we have a very ambitious program. It's a fantastic place to work. We love it. We have a close-knit team. It's a very academic, nerd-heavy, workaholic, hard-working group of people. And I like to believe that over the last year, we've demonstrated that we can really get stuff done and get progress happening fast. Good cash, good board, existing resources. This is not binary exploration. We will have 3 resources by the end of the year across the tenure, and the IOCG is enormous, amazing blue sky potential, which is very exciting as well. So with that, I'll stop here and thank you for your time.